I had somebody recently ask me to look into the lore of Path of Exile and give kind of a loristic breakdown. Loristic's not a word, I made that up. Don't worry about it. Look, at the game. And the lore in the game is actually pretty vague, but I thought that this was a great idea. Me personally, I'm somebody who I really enjoy to read. I mean, this is just sitting on my couch right here. There's a whole shit ton of books up there. I like to read. I'm a little bit of a nerd. And I looked up the lore to Hillock, and it was pretty vague. Um, so I decided what I would do for you guys is I would look at Hillock, and we would go over Hillock, his story, who he is, everything like that. So without further ado, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. And, we always got people going on, talking, people going on, things going on in the Discord, people talking, things of that nature. So please consider joining the Discord. There will be a description down in the a link in the description. There we go. I just woke up. Don't worry about it. Anyways, let's get into it. Without further ado, I present to you the story of Hillock. So Hillock was a man of great stature, so much so that on the day of his birth proved almost deadly for his mother, as he nearly split her in two, just coming out. Imagine that. So big that you nearly split your mother in two while exiting the birthing canal. That's insane. That's crazy. Anyways, this this condemnation that he obtained due to his sheer size proved to be troublesome throughout his entire life. Hillock was born moderately gentle, moderately kind, just a big fucking dude. And unfortunately, because he was so big, he was terrifying. The other parents, everyone, his own parents as well, they wouldn't let their children, play with Hillock, simply because they feared for their children's safety if Hillock were to get overly aggressive or rambunctious. The possibility of these children being hurt in a very significant manner was exorbitantly high if they were associating with Hillock. With how big he is, it would be extremely simple, extremely easy for him to completely destroy one of these other children. At the age of 10, he was the size of a full-grown man. So through this, he was kept basically isolated in solace his entire life, or solitude rather. And eventually, he found his place where a man of his stature, a man of his strength, and a man of his learned solitude would reign supreme. And that was in the Forge. So though Hillock was able to make it through most of his childhood, being kept away from others, he found that while he was at the Forge, he could use all of his strength, all of his force, and he could use this to create masterpieces. This ended up getting people from all over the world to come and travel and see Hillock. You've got to think, when you hear the stories of the 10-foot tall smith who could swing a hammer as hard and as quick as a team of three, you're going to travel across the world yourself to see this. It's like Ripley's Believe It or Not Wraeclast edition. So yeah, people were coming from all over the place to see Hillock, to see who he was, how big he was, if the stories were true, if he was really as big and as terrifying and as good behind the forge as everyone claimed. And he was. Everyone seemed to like Hillock. He was very reserved. He was a quiet man. And this was normal for him. He would go to work, he would bust his ass creating these magnificent, swords and armor pieces for, everyone really. Anyone that could afford his wares. Well, although he worked super hard at the forge and he found solace in working as a smithy, he still would drown his past angst away nightly at the inn. After a hard day's work, he could be found sitting at the inn, surrounded by plates and mugs, just showing how much he had gone through that night, the amount of food he had eaten, the amount of drink he had consumed every night was that of, 4 or 5 men. It was insane. He was a huge dude, though, so it was expected. Mostly left alone at the inn. He was one of those guys that would sit in the corner, he would eat his food, he would drink his drink, and he would go home. He would stumble home and try to make it as close to home as he could, occasionally passing out in the ditch somewhere due to being too drunk, but he was Hillock. Nobody messed with him. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone respected him. Well, one day he was in the bar in the inn, and a drifter came up. This drifter came up, and nobody knows what he said to Hillock, but Hillock was far into his drinks at this point. This drifter thought it would be a smart idea to either make a joke at Hillock, a slanderous lie, or just maybe he said the wrong thing. Wasn't expecting the reaction that he obtained. But when he said this, it was almost in one single motion. Hillock slammed his cup down on the table, stood up, and with the other hand, swung from his waist straight to the drifter's chin. As he connected, you could hear the simultaneous sounds of skull fracture and teeth shattering. As he connected with the man, and that sound echoed through the inn, you could see 2 other men standing over at the bar immediately turn to see what was going on. As their friend was standing there, neck snapped, head hanging, staring at them, dead. Their friend then collapsed on the ground, and they rushed over to help him. One of the friends went straight to the drifter. He wanted to assist. He wanted to make sure his friend was okay. The other one charged for Hillock. He happened to have a plate in his hand when this happened. He smacked Hillock in the head with the plate. Hillock was still lost. He wasn't exactly sure what had happened. He just knew that he snapped. The plate connected with Hillock's head. All hope was lost. Hillock proceeded to grab the man by the head, his hand easily dwarfing this man. He grabbed the man's head in his hand, and then he smashed, much like trying to break open a coconut, into the ground. He repeated this forceful smash 3 times, leaving nothing but a lifeless body and a bloody mess where a head used to be. The third friend witnessing this knew that he was next if he didn't do something about it. He pulled his knife from the sheath, and he charged at Hillock. Hillock, still in a daze, didn't see the friend coming at him. The dagger connected, stabbing Hillock in the back right shoulder blade. Hillock didn't even feel the knife. He knew that somebody was there, but he didn't know that he had been stabbed. He stood up. He also grabbed this man by the head, but not the same way. It wasn't in one hand. He grabbed this man, one hand on either side of his head, and he squeezed. Nobody was saying anything to Hillock at this point. Everyone was quiet. Nobody knew what was going on. Everyone was in sheer shock. The gentle giant had lost it. With this man's head in between his 2 hands, Hillock began to squeeze. He squeezed. He squeezed. Eventually, without much force at all, the third drifter's head exploded. You could see partial fragments of skull, pieces of scalp, brain matter explode in an upward direction, almost like a volcano, covering Hillock as well as the top of the inn in this stranger's blood. After this melee, Hillock decided to retreat back to the forge, and rest, fix his wounds, and try to try to address what had happened. Hillock, though a giant, huge beast of a man, was still gentle. He wasn't a very intellectually classy man. He was a smithy. He ran a forge. He was a giant. Whatever the scripture said, it changed to it. Nobody knows. Nobody's able to surmise what exactly was said on that day. But it turned Hillock from just a smithing into a monster. Hillock decided to retreat back to the forge. He nursed his wounds. He got himself healed. And nobody wanted to do anything. Nobody wanted to say anything. Everyone feared Hillock. And it made sense that everyone feared Hillock. He was giant. He was huge. Nobody was going to make him answer for his crimes. And I think that may have changed Hillock more than the acts he committed himself. Because after this event, Hillock spent days, 3, 4, nobody really knows for sure, it seemed like forever. He spent days in the forge, hammering away, pounding. He ended up emerging almost a week later. His wounds seemed to be healed, physically at least, but you could tell mentally Hillock was the same. He carried with him a giant sword. This sword was, well, it was a validation of his hard work, validation of everything he's lived for, everything he's done. And so he carried this sword around with him. It was almost as though this sword was the source of his insanity. The act that was committed led him down a path of sheer terror. Once the sword was created, he would travel around town looking for reasons to destroy people. It didn't matter if you looked at him wrong. It didn't matter if he said something lippy. It didn't matter, well, maybe he was just having a bad day. He would maim, he would kill, he would destroy anything and everything he wanted to, because nobody could stop him. Nobody wanted to stop him. That was Hillock. You know, he was Hillock. You can't fuck with somebody that big. He's a giant. They turned a gentle giant into a beast of great stature. Now, as he went around maiming, injuring, people started to change the way they felt about Hillock. Though once loved, he slowly began to be the source of great disdain. And as time went on, this disdain grew and grew and grew. Until one day it culminated into, well, a group of citizens in the town in which Hillock resided. They decided to team up while Hillock was asleep and drive a heart through his sword. Drive a sword through his heart. This seemingly killed Hillock. So what they did is they carried his body, carried it up to the waterfall, and they threw it off, hoping that if the sword didn't kill him, the fall into the deep water, or maybe the drowning in the deep water, would finish the job. It seemed to have worked. Everything was fine. The townspeople went back to living their life pre-Hillock style. No one feared. Granted, the town suffered financially due to this, but it was okay, because Hillock had been tended to. He wasn't murdering people anymore. He wasn't hurting anyone anymore. He was gone. He was taken care of. This is great. Well, one day though, a fisherman, he returned from the shores of Wraeclast with mention of a great beast that he had saw in the ocean spray, out in the mist. And he didn't know what it was, but he had heard the stories of Hillock, and he had an idea of who it might be. He took this story of what he had seen and he carried it into town, started letting people know. Everyone thought he was just a crazy sailor. It makes sense, you know. You got these sailors out there, they're seeing everything. Mermaids, fucking krakens, giant fish the size of buildings, you know. So nobody really believes too much of what this sailor's saying until the bodies on the shores of Wraeclast start piling up, mangled, destroyed, almost that of a beast, but no claw mark or teeth marks can be found. Just sheer bloody destruction. There have been a couple more people sent out past that to try to track down this beast. Sadly, none of them have made it back. Your job now, Exile, is to go and track down this great beast Hillock. It's been brought back from the dead somehow. Nobody knows how. Maybe reincarnated and taken over by the devil himself. But Exile, you're needed to kill Hillock. To save the town of Lion's Eye Watch. Lion Eyes Watch. Your job is to kill Hillock and bring peace to the shores of Wraeclast once again. Should you take this message? Should you take this message? That doesn't make sense. Oh well, I guess. Should you take this message to heart? Should you accept this journey? Hillock may allow you, one day, to acquire his own Goroshi. The sword in which his god complex was built upon and created here. So, Exile, what do you say? Will you fight Hillock? Will you try to save the people of Lion's Eye Watch? I always say the town's name wrong, don't worry about it. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me a while to try to write all this stuff out, and I did it because I really was very interested in the lore of Hillock. Now, I'm not a great of storyteller as I'm a writer, so there's that. If you guys do want to see a written out version of this, an actual scripted version, let me know, and I'll try to put together like a Google document of the script that I did for this video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to go further and show any extra support, it would be greatly appreciated, and you can do so through either the PayPal or the Patreon links. I realize that I probably should have turned my webcam back on, but you guys, I just want to say this YouTube channel has been growing a lot recently, and I wouldn't be here without you. So, with all sincerity, I really do. I offer you my gratitude. Thank you. You guys are. This community is the only reason that this YouTube channel's here. So, I appreciate it. Thanks, you guys. I hope that y'all have a great day. I'm gonna go smoke some weed.